Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, that you've gathered us here tonight, healthy, safe, living in a good community. Lord, give us enough wisdom tonight to stay that way. I know, Lord, there's going to be some hard feelings tonight. Dear God, help those not to last too long. Give us guidance, give us strength, give us courage. See us safely home. We ask these things in the name of your Son. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alderman French.
Here.
Alderman Patton.
Here.
Alderman Bellamy.
Here.
Vice Mayor Messick.
Here.
Alderman Nichols.
Here.
Alderman Elam.
Here.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve the January the 4th meeting, the minutes of the meeting? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Are there any corrections or additions? Call the roll, please.
Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols. Alderman Elam.
Any correspondence? No. Okay, at this time, comments from the citizens, and I would ask this to be about grievances that have to do with the city of Manchester, and to hold any comments that until that you may have with annexation of Country Club Lane. Any comments from the citizens that has grievances or has to do with running the city manager? Okay. I would like to say we sadly regret the loss of our deputy. He has been really a friend of all the employees. He was always, but we ask that you pray for his family, and ask that you pray that this COVID stops. And I would just like to lift that up. Okay, committees. Right now, I would just like to, if the board has anything to report. Safety. Finance.
Finance, we have a finance meeting February 7th, 5 o'clock. Budget calendar and emails have been sent to department heads. Non-profit letters for budget requests have gone out, and 66% of our budgeted tax has been collected.
Thank you. Okay, also, street.
Yeah, I'll bring up something under that topic, department. So the other day I was driving around at lunch, and I took a ride down by Taco Bell, went out to Skin Flat, and in Esther Lane, just to see what's going on. And I noticed that the development that's happening on Esther Lane on the right-hand side is progressing pretty well. Dirt's moved and all that sort of thing. And it occurred to me that, 3 or 4 years ago, I walked that same track when we were looking at water mitigation. We talked about it, this government talked about it. Previous governments had done work on that. And so I picked up a phone, called George, and George was like, well, I'll be right there. I want to show you something. So he drove out and met me there. And so this guy, there are going to be 123 houses back there. And it's well underway. There's a lot of water mitigation having to take place because it's kind of low and that sort of thing. This is all in conjunction. The reason I looked at it before is because of all the water that's on Forest River Drive and the water that comes from across the interstate, all just kind of goes through there, depending on how heavy it is. So it's been on my mind for a while. So anyway, George meets me out there, and he shows me where the developer has laid in beside Esther Lane this drainage system on their property. And it's done not for anything to do with the development, but to accept water from in between Esther Lane and Skinner Flat, and on the other side of Skinner Flat. So the developer did that out of their own pocket without anything. Well, I don't know what took place, but anyway, they did it. So George says he's got a plan. Sorry, Director of Streets, apologize. The Director of Streets says he's got a plan to move water from the left-hand side of Skinner Flat, under Skinner Flat, down by that, on that property line between the apartments and those houses, under Esther Lane, and drainage that the developers put in place. The reason I bring this up now is because it's all open ground right now. It's all open, done, and, you know, once that gets done, houses built and all that, you know, whatever people are all the people. Didn't even remember that, but, so, I asked George how much it cost. He said $15,000. Who knows, that was off the cuff, could be $50,000. But I'm thinking it's a great time to do it. Now, does this alleviate much water? I have no idea. I'm not, no waterfall, I'm not an engineer by any stretch, but to me it would alleviate some water coming from, and by the way, Lexington collects all their water, there's no runoff from that. That all goes off to that pond back there, which originally was dug to make the overpass over I-24 way back when. But, so, then if anybody ever develops a plant on the left-hand side of Skinner Flat, because of the new code that's put in place, thanks largely to St. John Engineering back in the day, when the first building codes were adopted, which were not adopted, which is what's caused this problem anyway. But whoever develops on the left-hand side of Skinner Flat will have to hold water there. Whatever water is on that property now, they'll be able to hold the water. So I'm thinking right now would be a good time to invest whatever money, or we've got money, to go ahead and start to get the water department to move their water lines, find whatever it takes to put the deal underneath the roads, do the ditch inside the apartments connected to this development. Is there any interest in, I'll make a motion if we do that.
The motion has been made, it has been moved and seconded. Do I hear any comments?
Don't you think we ought to get Scott St. John involved in this?
I left that part out. I went and met with Scott St. John Friday afternoon. He was kind enough to give me 15 minutes. He showed me the engineering, the drawings of, all the engineering has been done, I would say. All is a big mistake. I don't know if all has been done, but back in the day when we were looking at it, some engineering was done. Engineering has been done for the development on the right-hand side of Esther Lane. Engineering doesn't age on topography. So there's engineering on the, and supposedly Coral Construction was going to help do some of that, but that was verbal, so I'm not holding them to that. They still want to do it, it'd be great. But so that engineering has been done.
I've asked George to come up with his figures, and also Adam is speaking to Scott St. John, because Kenny Sadler had told me something differently, and Scott spoke with, and I couldn't figure out why Kenny was saying there's no rush on that, and Scott was saying, so Adam, are you ready to give your impression of what is the latest on that? It was different from Friday afternoon to Monday morning that I understood.
So when speaking with Scott today, he said that the developer that is over by Esther Lane is doing all that work over there, has already purchased the pipe and head walls and catch basins, all the infrastructure to go up under Esther Lane. And it's also, if I'm not mistaken, the water main relocation on that side, on Esther Lane. So really, it would be up to the city to pick up from there and go over to Skinner Flat, put the culverts over Skinner Flat, and do some regrading the ditch along Skinner Flat.
So Adam, when it comes down through there and you put the culverts in, it's going to be a ditch. The city's not going to come in and hook up to the ditch that they're doing from Esther Lane. Am I right?
It's all underground.
But it's,
The ditch will be above ground, it's between the Esther Lane and Skinner Flat. Then it goes under Esther Lane and it connects underground to that drain. There's also a retention pond on the edge of that property that the developer's going to have. It's more of a, I don't hate to talk about a release to go off into the creek. And then there's also the retention pond on that development, retention area on that development, just for the water on the development. So they've already planned for that offlow out through there behind a separate kind of situation. Is that fair to say?
Yes, they diverted all the water that's coming from the Skinner Flat direction to go around that development.
That's already in place. That's already dug and done. Grass growing in.
but is it an open ditch that instead of, when you come off of Skinner Flat, there will be a big culvert. And we will move the water line. But from there will be a ditch that just comes down. We won't hook on to, because Esther Lane, the one from Esther Lane, would have crossed the road, moved the water line. But that's what I didn't understand.
Yeah, there'll be culverts up under Skinner Flat. From there, it will ditch across over to Esther Lane, and we'll go into the culverts that the developer is installed under Esther Lane.
I mean, I know they have really engineered it from Esther Lane, but is there and I just asked this because I know that moving them with George's price and with how much it probably will cost to move that water line for, the question is there a rush for July? Now, that's just a question, it's the pleasure of the board, that's the question I'm asking.
Well, to the rush part, I think there is a rush because like I said, I'm going to be gone out of here in 6 months and those things just go with the people that have them in their head. When you're gone, that's gone. I mean, there's not a plan out there to chase that. But all the ground's open right now and the attachment is right there.
And
Yes, sir.
the new subdivision on Esther Lane, 137 houses, and I'm just asking because I don't know. The water that we're going to take, that Bill wants to take to that subdivision, is that the subdivision engineered to handle it?
Yeah, that water's really already making it there. It's just not doing it in the most efficient manner. So, yes, they have put in ditches and whatnot to bypass that water around their subdivision on the far side.
So we really got nothing to lose by doing this, right? Except we're going to spend $16,000 early.
We were going to spend $30,000 to put a brick wall around our, I'm just saying 16,000 is not a number when you're considering moving some water. It's already going, it floods across those streets anyway, through those houses, over into just a field. And the developer already has a place for the water to go and underground and in that diversion area, I don't know what you call that. the engineer.
I'm not arguing, I'm just trying
It's
to.
that's what we just went over. It's got the diversion already built in.
So, your motion is tonight, to make a motion that we don't wait till the budget amendment, we do it tonight. Is that
Correct.
And second.
I got a second. And if there needs to be some amendment, like up to a certain dollar amount or until so signed off by the street, I'd say signed off by two professionals, street department director and John engineering, if that works out good, and I'd say go with that, we don't care.
Don't you good with it?
George, you gonna put a budget cap in your original motion?
A what? He just knows $16,000.
If the original estimate, like 16,000, was to lower the water line on Esther Lane and on Square Flats. The developer on Esther Lane is lowering that portion, and that's an 8-inch line over there, so the real estimate will be just for a 6-inch line on Square Flats, so it won't be probably 16,000, at least some number under that. But that price estimate was back in August, so your supplier said it won't hold those prices. It should be less than that.
Alderman, I think we'll have to have some kind of financial guidance, with either a cap or have to get quoted from that. We want to get.
So we'll do the work on the water line in-house.
I trust the professionals.
That won't be contracted out. They'll just be the materials that we'll have to order, and we'll work under our permit with the state.
Totally trust that. I just think legally, for us to pass this, we're gonna have to have.
$35,000.
If it spends unbudgeted money, it's probably implicit in your motion, you'll need to do a budget amendment to cover whatever the cost is, and maybe change your motion to just add that to, and to make a budget, make a budget amendment to cover whatever the cost is, and then we can't spend money that hadn't been budgeted.
Okay, I'll do that, make a budget amendment.
So, George, you've already planned for this, and you've got to do big culverts.
Yes.
That's a lot. Okay.
But we do need to coordinate between the developer over there, when he goes under Santa Flat or Extra Lane. We need to all sort of coordinate, do it all together. We don't want to rush all that water over on the beach without the tile going under Extra Lane. So I don't know how long it'll take him to do it. But we could coordinate between each other.
But it's a good thing, you're helping people over on Extra Lane. There's no reason not to.
And you're holding high dollar culverts. You had planned on this.
Yes.
Okay, so what is the motion again?
Attorney Yule, what was my motion?
It's a motion to proceed, the way I understood it, Dad, it's your motion, but you come in right, if I was saying, it's a motion to proceed with the water project to carry the water that comes under Esther Lane out and to make the appropriate budget amendment to handle it in this budget. Or whatever part can be done in this budget.
From the left-hand side of Skinner Flat Road, whatever. Over to the right-hand side of West Road.
We're not gonna spend more than $16,000, right?
No, we didn't say that. We said it would be a budget amendment. We left that up.
It's just a budget amendment.
Whatever the total of the job is.
What if the job is $50,000?
Some of us are just moving the water,
I'm just saying, we ought not write a blank check, just put $50 down on it, let's go. I'm okay with it.
What is the dollar amount? Oh, okay, we have the culverts. And those are high dollar culverts. They've already been covered. And your labor, your estimate on the labor rental of the backhoe, what's that total price, George?
Count the tile and all, it's $30,940 for each house. That's still what.
So do we back that tile out?
They've already bought the tile, it won't require a budget amendment.
Right.
For the tile part, it's just whatever else that we haven't bought, or whatever else we spend is all the
It'd be like the $5,000 for rental of the track hoe.
And since Brian, you had assumed that we bought those water lines. Ballpark, we don't know what the materials are, that ballpark.
It'll be, so that 16,000 included about 100 foot of water line on Esther Lane, more than that, and more than about 100 foot on Skinner Flat. Skinner Flat's a 6-inch line. Certainly the 6-inch pipe will cost less than the 8-inch pipe. We haven't bought any lately. Prices are a little volatile on the market right now. So we can certainly get an estimate, but it'll be significantly less than the 16,000 original estimate because we're talking about less than half of the property. I would assume at this point between $8,000 or $10,000 for our portion.
So can we just put a $20,000 cap on it and go? Is that okay?
The question is, do we wait till July and they're going to be ready for it? Or if we say go ahead and do it, we've got two high dollar culverts, right, George?
Yes, ma'am.
Very high dollar, sitting there. Do we do it? And if we do it now, how do you word that as far as the budget?
Just to make the appropriate budget amendment to cover the additional cost. The stuff we've already bought, we don't need one, but just whatever the additional cost is, and it's unlimited in state. Just whatever it is. There's state statutes that we can't spend money that hasn't been appropriated. So the appropriate, as the motion's been stated, the way I judge the appropriation is whatever it costs to accomplish this result.
Okay.
Or whatever additional money is necessary to accomplish this.
Any more discussion? Okay. So it has been moved and seconded according to Alderman Nichols' motion, right? If we have to, right now, if we have to do a budget amendment, we're going to proceed with it. Is that, everybody good with that? No more discussion? Would you call the roll, please?
Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick.
I just want you guys to know, I'm not opposed to it, but I'm opposed to doing it without a cap on it, so I'm gonna vote no.
Alderman Nichols. Alderman Elam.
Water and sewer?
I have one more street, sorry. I know. We had, so, George, help me with this. We had in our budget that we did last year, we put $200,000 in for a knuckle boom trail.
Yes.
And so that's in our budget. Then, and this is leading to my city manager, probably later, so I'll bring it up. So the street department does great work, go out, take time, do all the things, to get 5 estimates on the knuckle boom. Comes in at 170 plus. 5 people bid, the lowest bid is the one truck like we've got already, and it's the best number, and it all works out great. So anything over 35,000, Board of Mayor will have to vote on. So that's, I guess, is that on the agenda for that?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, yeah. So, but in the meantime, the director of street calls a special call meeting so that the street committee can vote on it. And you know, I just made the argument that we didn't need, so I shut about it, and I was like, we don't need to vote on this because we already have voted on it. But the reason we call it a special call meeting is because this is the way we've always done it. The director of street did exactly the appropriate thing based on historical method of our government, which I think is a wholly political method. The only reason I can think of that we would want to have that meeting is because we want to remind everybody, well, first of all, it'd be like we go home and tell Amy that, oh, I had no meeting tonight, you know. It's completely superfluous to the situation. And if we had a city manager, that would not even be a question. There wouldn't even be a street department committee. So the only reason I think we have these committees, I'm not almost done.
Should we hold that if it's about the city manager?
Well, it's, sure.
I mean, if this is about city manager, could we hold it to then? Because we'll have, and we're,
Yeah, I got you. I'm good.
all right.
Move on, thank you.
Recreation,
I've got one there too. I'll hold that for the dragonflies. I'll hold that for the city.
hey, if it has to do with recreation, if it's about the city manager.
Well, it was a vote in the rec committee that I thought was unnecessary. But it was in there because it's the way it's supposed to be done. Totally the same thing. We were going to vote if we could get free paint and a free artist to repaint the dragonflies.
Okay, tourism,
We had a meeting last week, we had a long meeting, and a lot of it was about the rec center and all the tournaments that are going to be going on this year. They're very busy, and we presented a report at the Chamber Day to Ryan.
I got something to it.
what you have to do is set the street.
No, ma'am. It has nothing to do with the city manager. It's got strictly to it. Well, no, indirectly probably does, but anyway. So I brought up a couple of months ago about the need for tourism, for the same percentage to come out of the budget to tourism. I want to see if there's any idea here. Do we start rethinking how much money we put in that? Given the big expenditure that I know of, and I'm sure there are more, but there was $25,000 taken from tourism to buy a lawnmower for the rec department, which I would have been happy to vote for that as an alderman just out of the general fund if it was not the rec budget and they needed a lawnmower. But I think it's just kind of getting to this point where the money being spent is a little bit But here's my last point on that. And I know everybody's here, but I'm sorry you came on and out, and I have to talk about it.
And I am on top of that.
One more point about it. We also, since then, have funded the Greater Manchester Economic Development Board. And I think, I just think we're getting a lot of committees working on the same kind of thing. So I'm wondering if we shouldn't change how much money goes to the Tourism Commission and leave it to the general.
And I am on top of that, too. But I just don't want to get into
I'm
it.
done.
Okay, planning and zoning, thank you, Bill.
I got nothing on planning and zoning.
Thank you. Planning and zoning.
I didn't know that the department heads were doing it. We've been relatively busy. As everyone knows, we have a building inspector position open. So if you know anyone who might be interested in that, please send them my way. We do have a few townhome developments that actually broke ground today. Inspected those footers myself. We have recently finalized our February Planning Commission agenda. There are 3 annexations on that agenda, so you will definitely have lots of my things on as resolutions and ordinances in the upcoming meetings. And you all will be discussing the fire inspector position later on the agenda. Busy time for planning and zoning. Thank you.
Wearing lots of hats right now, everything, yeah. Okay, historic zoning.
We have a meeting, February 3rd, 5 o'clock. Here in Minnesota.
Okay, we'll get into resolution, and George, there's a chair there. I know you can pull it over to the side if you want to. I know that George has a knee problem.
My chair, very welcome.
You gotta take care of my street. Okay.
You ladies want my chair.
Mayor, the first thing, there are 2 options here. The knuckle boom truck, the first resolution is to purchase it with the warranty. The bids came in, as was represented, there were 5 bids, but the bid from the low bid had an optional warranty, extended warranty for 5 years, 10,000 hours or 150,000 miles. I prepared the resolution in the alternative, one with the warranty, one without. It's about $3,800 difference between 174,710 and 170,748.
I make a motion for option 2.
Without the warranty?
Without.
Second.
No, sir.
Okay, it is moved and seconded, and the motion is as presented that we will take the bid without the warranty. Do I hear any discussion on it? Call the roll, please.
Alderman French. Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols. Alderman Elam.
Second thing is a resolution to approve a contract with Rogers Group Inc., City of Manchester's estimated annual paving requirements based on unit prices. Total estimated cost $430,557.50.
Make a motion.
Okay, it is moved and seconded, the motion is as presented. Do I hear any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Alderman French. Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols. Alderman Elam.
Next thing is a resolution requesting the Tennessee General Assembly designate the Manchester Conference Center a premier type tourist resort under TCA 574102. This was sent to us as a suggestion to allow them to get a liquor license. I think it's redundant of an existing park, but the people that we've asked to help us want it done that way, I'm not going to tell them not to. So it allows the location of the conference center to get a liquor and beer license. There's still going to be an issue as to whether the city or the PBA is an appropriate licensee under ABC rules because it is a governmental entity, and they have, Attorney General has opined that that a governmental entity does not qualify under the existing licensure definition. But that is something we all, or some of us spoke with Representative Bricken at the chamber meeting. So I think this is redundant, but they asked us to do it, so it doesn't hurt if it's not needed.
Okay. It is moved and seconded, the motion is as presented. Do I hear any discussion on it? Who's coming? Call roll, please.
Alderman French. Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols. Alderman Elam.
Next thing is a resolution adopting the plan of services preliminary to annexation of 20 and 26/100 acres of property owned by Judith Driver and Boyd Jackson Jr. located on Country Lane. It also annexes .28 miles off Country Lane. Is required by Tennessee Code annotated 6-51102 to address certain things.
So, second.
Okay, it is moved and seconded.
This one has to have a public hearing by state statute. Mayor,
Okay,
you can call for a public hearing on
yes,
this at some point, whatever the chair's pleasure.
okay. We will have the board to make a comment if they will make a comment, and then a public hearing. This is in regard to fire, water, sewer. If it's related to this and you feel like it's worthy of comment, this is a public hearing. Do I hear any comments from the board?
Do we get to comment as well?
Pardon?
Do we get to comment as well?
I would ask that you come to the podium, and if it's related to water, sewer, fire, you can come to the podium and give your name and address. And
I
I
have
will
several
recognize.
things that some of it covers that. Is that
Okay, if
okay?
it's related to this, it's a public meeting, and you can come to the podium, and I will recognize you, and you will give your name and address and your comment.
I'm Connie Mooney, and I'm at 167 Old Stone Circle, which is annexed in the city, and it is next to this property. And as a city resident, I would like to bring up a few things concerning this, and I hope you will at least hear me. I would like to thank the mayor and the aldermen for the opportunity to express my concern. A few decades ago, there was a girl born just over the hill at Earlinger Hospital in Chattanooga. When she grew up, she went on great adventures with the military for 34 years. 20 years were overseas.
I hate to interrupt you, but this is in regard to
It's about,
services.
okay, I live on Creekwood
If it has,
subdivision.
am I correct?
Yeah, this is about whether we should adopt the plan of services or not. So it should
But what
focus on the streets, the police department, the
So,
solid waste
okay, I will
collection.
go to that point. When it comes to the infrastructure, so, because I do have where it covers the infrastructure. Letters were provided in regards to law enforcement, the school system, and utilities, stating they can support the growth. The law enforcement support oversight of the starter home community. Will they have the law enforcement to cover the nearby state park for the wide open spaces for these unsupervised teenagers that will be there? Is there a teacher-to-student density study that is being completed? Are there teachers available to hire, or is there a shortage? As far as the infrastructure, the developer built the road into Creekwood subdivision, and about quarterly, the city comes and spreads asphalt to fill the holes around the sinking storm drains. The developer did his job, but left a bill for the city to pay by constantly fixing the road. So what I'm saying is, currently in that area, the infrastructure isn't very good. I have a lot more to say, but that's the bottom line when it comes to the fire department, the sewer, supporting the school system, and the basic infrastructure.
Anyone else? No more comments from the, and thank you, for the comment. Okay, if no more comments, could you call the roll, please?
Alderman French. Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols. Alderman Elo.
Next thing, Madam Mayor, I have is a resolution proposing annexation by written consent of 20 and 46/100 acres more or less owned by Judith Driver and Bill Jackson Jr. Described in 1 Book 288, page 637, along with, again, the 2.28 miles of country line,
Okay,
which is a 50-foot line.
do I hear a motion?
Make a motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. The motion is as presented. At this point, I will ask that it be the board. Any comments from the board? If the city of Manchester wants to do the annexation, it's a resolution. We're not getting into the zoning right now. So, board comment. Anytime the board wants to ask someone a question out there, but right now it is. I would say it's not a public hearing. It is for board comment.
I got a comment. So I was on the committee that did the urban growth boundary back in the day, and everybody in the county was fully represented. Everybody in the city was fully represented. It was a great board. Austin Anderson was the chairman, and the union did a little extra something like that. It looked like it was completely fair, and everybody had an opportunity to speak to that. And it was mandate from the state of Tennessee that we had to begin to plan outward growth of the city, so we drew these lines, like what's it going to look like in this many years from now. So that's what the urban growth boundary is. And over the years since then, for instance, if somebody has built a house and it's over a certain number of feet away from a fire hydrant, we've asked them to put the fire hydrant in before they built it. And this has been an ongoing, since, and I can't remember when that was passed, the urban growth boundary. But that's what this resolution is about, the annexation. And I think we are pretty much legally bound to annex anything we've already voted on that's going to be the urban growth boundary, right? So this is that part of it. The next part is how it comes in, or what happens on it.
Any more comment from the board? Call roll, please.
Alderman French. Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols. Alderman Elam.
Second reading ordinance entitled Chapter 6, Section 1, to the Manchester Municipal Code, citing the zoning ordinance of the city of Manchester to amend that zoning ordinance and zoning that provide that real estate owned by J.O. Phillips Jr. be rezoned as C3 commercial from I-1 industrial.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. The motion is as presented. Is there any comment? Any comment?
Alderman French. Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols. Alderman Elam.
Second reading ordinance to repeal Manchester Municipal Code 14.518. These are some redundant building codes with other ones that were subsequently.
Is there a second? Did I hear a second? It has been moved and seconded. The motion is as presented. Is there any discussion on this motion? Go ahead. Call the roll, please.
Alderman French. Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols. Alderman Elam.
Next thing on the agenda is an ordinance to amend Manchester Municipal Code 14.3035H to add indoor gun ranges and entertainment and amusement service. This would allow these ranges in certain commercial districts. It comes in with no limitations as to time or noise or any standards about the gun range. I think there's been some discussion about asking the planning commission to weigh in on that. I don't know what the board's pleasure is.
I'll
I'll make a motion to table it.
Second.
And Brittany, do you have a comment on this?
Gerald suggested that I take it back to the planning commission and come up with a specific ordinance regarding that. So I have already added it to the planning commission's agenda to discuss that and come up with something a little more detailed.
I would like to comment, Mayor, that if we do, between now and next meeting, if we do come, when the planning commission meets, I would support moving along a special call meeting once we have the language, even if it's after the next meeting, to kind of pick it back up. Because I understand there's a weight on this, so we passed on it last month. I'll table it now, but I'd like for there to be work to get that language to the planning commission. If they pass something with a positive recommendation, give it to us, and if necessary, call a special call for that.
And the planning commission may decide to do a committee.
Sure.
I mean,
We're at their mercy once it is there, I understand, but that would be my rather. As soon as they have a verdict, I'd like to, for us to put some disputes.
And Director Fisk has a number of materials in his canvassed neighboring communities. She's prepared on some of that stuff.
There's not really, somebody came to us with an idea, and it just simply wasn't in our ordinance. So we decided that we should put it in there, but I don't believe there's a rush for it. He hasn't come to us since we spoke to him the first time. So a special call may not be necessary, but totally optional.
so will you state your motion again?
I'll make a motion to table
Okay.
the ordinance.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. The motion is as Alderman.
Mayor,
Yes.
I think you got it.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I'm sorry. It seems like it's already a done deal, but why were we not asked if we had any comments on the resolution for the annexation?
I'll call for roll, please. We haven't addressed the zoning yet. We only addressed the annexation.
Right, but are we not allowed to comment on the annexation?
We gave a comment. Everyone had.
No, do we have an opportunity to make comments on the annexation? We had an opportunity to talk about the plan of services, but not the
Yes,
annexation.
you did.
Pardon?
Yes, you did. You had an opportunity, but
You didn't, I didn't hear anybody ask for commentary on the annexation. Did anybody hear anything?
Board only.
It was only the board.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, it was not a public meeting, and it was open to the board, and the board could ask, and I made that clear.
Okay, I'm just unclear why that wasn't public.
Because it's according to Robert's rules, we do not have to open that portion up as a public meeting, and the board could have given you opportunity to speak. And it will be the same way with the zoning. Okay.
Well, I object to the annexation.
You don't have a right to object.
All right, I'm just saying so anyway.
Okay, any comments on the tabling of the gun range? Call the roll, please.
Alderman French. Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols. Alderman Elam.
We have first reading of an ordinance authorizing the appointment of and establishing the duties of the city manager.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
The motion has been moved and seconded. It is as presented. Do we have any comments?
So, I'd like to start. I emailed everybody the comments from MTAS, and our representative there thinks it's a great idea for us to revisit this. And I'm going to read a letter to the editor I wrote on May 8, 2019. Manchester has become one of the brightest municipalities in the state, in Tennessee, in the coming years, and a key person to facilitate that inevitable growth is the city manager. We all know the benefits of our proximity to larger communities such as Murfreesboro and Smyrna. Our current government has prepared us for this day in a wonderful way that has infused our community with unlimited possibilities and enthusiasm. As the community grows and prospers, it needs change. What may not have worked in the past may now both be possible and necessary. The resurrection of the city manager is one such step. This time, it's our responsibility to make sure we respect a non-political governance that focuses on a future that benefits the greater good. The essential element for developing ideas for the future is a professional point of contact within our city government. With board mayor and alderman supervision, evaluation, and oversight, the city manager will be tasked with implementing the ideas of the board mayor and alderman, while at the same time managing the business and responsibilities of the city in a professional manner. To act on the ideas from the board mayor and alderman, the city manager will develop board mayor and alderman proposals and positions into a cohesive plan for the future of Manchester. While our dreams and objectives for the city of Manchester are shared, we often find ourselves working at cross purposes as we compete for resources and recognition. The right city manager will help us sift through these good intentions, create and implement a plan of action, and provide the budgeting and department oversight to see our dreams realized as we move together toward the future economic growth. With this vote, we set the tone for the future of Manchester. We will show our community, the region, and the state, not just our demographics, but also our mindset is ready to uphold our community values while moving proactively into our destiny as a thriving and growing regional state. Let's build a city that ensures our children's future prosperity. Respectfully, Bill Nichols. So I bring this up again because for one thing, I'm going to sit on the committee every Monday. We meet at 4:30 by Zoom that discusses the mega site. And, you know, that's going to happen. Somebody's going to come out there and buy that. We're going to have to commit crazy resources. No telling what all that's going to be. It's a big thing. And we don't have, our government right now is based on a politically regressive method, whereby we have committees, and the only reason we have those committees, which is why I brought up the street department earlier, is just so those directors realize who it is that hires and fires them. It's like they can be professional up to a point, and that point is when I need something done, or I need something done for my brother-in-law over here, or my cousin. Well, that's historically how this government, how our government is acting.
Pretty speak for yourself. I've not done that myself at all, so you go ahead.
I am, and so what I look for is a professional, progressive government where there are points of contact, points of responsibility, and accountability. So, and I do have examples. I don't have to bring them up in here, but I've got examples. But so that's why I brought that up to motion. So that's why I'm thinking. This time we've got to have it now. Because this getting ready, with this mega site, even this development happening in general, it's kind of happening over this committee and that committee. We've got to have a central point of contact. We can't be the mayor the way the mayor position is written now. The mayor is not. That's not what they're working.
So Bill, would you always come back around to you? Did you have something to say?
Yeah, I'm done. Thank you.
I personally don't like the way that it was brought up just all of a sudden last meeting. And I know we talked about it a couple of years ago. And then all of a sudden brings it up for a vote. Something like this is something we should have work sessions on, talk about, and we're just going to vote on it tonight. I don't like the way that he personally went about it. I've been here to be 8 years. I've been here for 6 years. I'm going to be 80. And he's the only one that doesn't want to work together on something like this. It's just, oh, let's get it up, let's vote on it, and let's do it. That's not the way it should be done. We should talk about this for a long time before we just up and make a vote tonight on this. So I'll be voting no.
Thank you. Any more discussion?
I agree with Mr. Nichols 100% to one point. The only way that a city administrator will work in Manchester, Tennessee The reasons it won't work is I've worked for two of them. And the reason both of those failed is the same reason that I feel like, and this is a personal opinion, that we hire another city administrator, starting with the first seat over there, not counting you. I'm not calling names, Chris. Don't get me wrong. But starting over there at that end of the table and ending over here at this end of the table, us aldermen, including myself, won't leave the guy alone and let him do his job. That's why it failed twice, is because the board of mayor and aldermen puts our nose where we've hired somebody to do a job and we won't let them do it. That's why two of them failed, and that's why I'll vote against it.
Any more discussion?
Yeah, Mayor, you know, I'm frustrated about this topic because I have, the whole time I've been up here, I've never been against the idea of city administrators. But I don't agree, Alderman Nichols, with some of the assertions, and not even the accusatory stuff tonight, but like disbanding committees. I've never personally went to a street committee to let George know who hires and fires George. I've never looked at it that way. I think elected officials ought to be involved in what's happening at the committee level. It doesn't, your advocation for particular issues, for example, I'll always come back to this, but sidewalks. That's an issue I've advocated for years and years and years. We finally are at a point where we've got funding opportunity, we've passed significant proposals to the point we're acquiring right-of-ways, and we're going to be pouring sidewalks soon in several areas that are critical. I'm not attracted to the idea that if we have a city manager, they don't have to do anything. I don't think that's why you run for office. And so I'm going to make a motion for an amendment. And my amendment is going to be very specific. I want to post the position for a city administrator. But I want to do that after we've had a consultation with MTAS to review our policies that we currently have that do not support the city administrator, because there's several. I want to establish new policies, and I want them to pass. And once those things have happened, and I'm not talking about kicking the can down the road for 6 months. I'd like to get MTAS called tomorrow and schedule a consultation and sit down and have this discussion about not just the idea of the city administrator, but what that actually means for Manchester and what we have to do to support that with policy. Because to Alderman Bellamy's point, we've done this twice before. I work with city managers and city administrators all over the region. I see amazing people doing amazing work, and I see them in situations where the government is set up to be successful and they're supported and they're allowed to do their jobs, and I see the opposite, where no matter how good they are, it's always a couple of people just stirring trouble for them. So I'm not against a city administrator. I'd like to have a discussion about what that looks like for not only this board and our participation, committees, but also to review and create policy to support that. I've said that from the get-go. I've always been in support of it, but I'm not going to be in support of doing it the same way we've always done it when it's failed. Our city is in a position where we do need an administrator we're continuing to grow. Every day that passes, we need it more than we did the day before. And that's going to continue to be the case. I believe that. And I've believed it for several years. But I think there's a way of going about it. And so I'm going to make a motion for an amendment that we request consultation with MTask immediately. I'll put a time frame on that right away. I'd like that request to be made tomorrow. And I would like for all of us to participate in that, or those that want to. And from that consultation, I would like to establish and bring policies to this board as soon as possible that need to be passed before we look at hiring someone. So that's my movement. Second.
It's moved and seconded. The amendment is two. Would you state that again, Brian?
That's a lot.
I was crazy, though.
So my amendment is to immediately communicate with MTask, request MTask for consultation, to review our current policies, to work with them to establish new policies, and to bring those policies back to this board for passage.
Any comments on that?
I'll vote for it, Ryan, if you figure a way to keep us from messing with it. Now, I don't mean anybody in particular, I'm not gonna mess, well, I'm not gonna mess with him, but it always happens. And like I said, I'm like you. If we get one, and we do a job, stay out of his business, and if he's investigating my big buddy over here, I need to shut up and not go bother. We just need to get something that regulates us to make us stay away.
I think it's a completely reasonable concern, and I think that's why we need to look at our policies before we can consider having someone in the city.
So are you comfortable with you and Alderman Nichols contacting MTask tomorrow?
I'll be happy to. Otherwise, we can do it joint. Help any way that we find.
So are we voting on,
We're voting on the amendment to contact MTask.
but we're not voting to hire a city manager tonight?
We're voting on the amendment and then we'll,
But we had a motion and,
but we did the amendment first.
I'd ask for Attorney Jewell to give us an opinion. The motion originally was to hire the city administrator.
I think really the motion was literally was to amend that motion to defer the decision on that pending review by MTask. It probably is more properly characterized under Robert's rules as a motion to table or postpone consideration of the ordinance as written until either the next meeting or until study by MTask. So I think probably rather than amending that motion, it in reality has the effect of postponing action on the original motion until review and discussion with MTask. I think that's the substance of it anyway.
so
That was your thought. So.
we're voting on the top of that, that's what we're doing, right?
I think really probably the motion ought to be to defer consideration of the motion to, or the ordinance to appoint and establish the duties of city manager until study by MTask. And then there's still a second.
I was going to leave the motion just simply for whenever we did pass policy, this board policy, that it in effect is, we're saying the position's open, but I understand.
Okay, well,
So we're not voting on the ordinance that's written here.
well,
Not really.
it's all in French's call.
I mean, my amendment would require us to pass supporting language first before the, that's what my amendment is. Now, if we can amend, we can change that and do it for, and just, I'll make a.
So your motion is to, after discussion with MTask, to hire a city manager.
Yeah, so all I need to do is rescind my second, correct?
Your
On
motion.
the original motion, and then just make a new motion. Because once I rescind it, there's not a second.
That'll work.
Okay, that's what I'll do. I rescind my second on the original motion.
We still have Alderman Nichols' original motion to adopt it as written.
Yes, and I rescind my second.
So we're deferring it?
I guess is there a second to Alderman Nichols' original motion?
Yeah, here's
Anybody else
second.
have an opportunity to second?
It's on the original. Now, I will make a motion that we defer it pending consultation with MTAS to review, establish, and pass policies for the city administrator position as a fresh motion.
Do I hear a second? All right.
Second. Bill, you want to second it? You seconded it before.
Any comments?
So we did vote on the ordinance.
No.
Heard that. Now we're going to vote on the motion.
Okay, so it was moved and seconded that we will contact MTAS, get the information. Does everybody know what we're going to do?
Clear and clear.
Any more comments? Call the roll, please.
Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy.
No. What?
Vice Mayor Messick.
No.
Alderman Nichols. Alderman Elam.
Alderman Bellamy has a point to
When you show me
finish
how
voting,
to do that.
reflect the original.
All right.
Okay, well, next thing I have is first reading of ordinance amending Title 14, Chapter 6, Section 22, dimensions of examining the zoning ordinance of the city to amend the ordinance and zoning provided for zoning by Eric Birch and Lee Swanson located on Willow Drive, being rezoned R4 residential, R3 residential.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It is moved and seconded. The motion is as presented. Do I have any questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Alderman French. Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols. Alderman Elam.
Next thing I have is first reading of the ordinance amending ordinance zoning 25 and 46 100
So moved.
C3, R3.
Second.
Okay, it is moved and seconded. The motion is as presented for this parcel of land to be an R3. At this time, I want to make this clear, at this time, we are not required to have an open meeting which everybody, the public has to speak. Everyone has been given, every alderman has been given every comment that was made at the zoning committee. Everyone has read it. I will open the floor up for board discussion, and the board can ask anybody out there to speak. So at this time, it is open. The floor is open for the board to discuss this. You made motions, so go ahead.
I've got a couple of people I look to hear from tonight. Can I ask them to speak?
Yes, you may.
Mr. Ivan, would you come forward and speak first, and then Jeff, your daughter? Cassie,
She's not here, Marty.
you got somebody to speak for you?
I will. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Oh, you want me to speak like this? I'd rather see all you people.
That'd be fine.
And Ms. Drummond, would you give your name?
Oh, okay. I'm Judy Driver, Judith Jackson Driver, and my brother over here is Boyd Jackson, Pete Jackson, and we have been here. Can I go around here?
And also, since I'm being consistent, your address.
My address is 374 Pinehurst Drive in Country Club Estates, and I would like to say some things just to clear up some things. I heard someone say there'd be some hard feelings. I'm not going to have any hard feelings with any of y'all. I have already gone through everything, but I'm going to read part of this so you'll understand some of the history, some of the things about what's going on here. And I have to tell you that I have been amazed and hurt by some of the things that have been said about us. They're not true. And for the very first thing is, I was classified by one of you all, I don't know which one.
I just would ask that you, when you're speaking, you're telling why, why you want to have this land and,
All right.
and not get into this.
All right, we won't worry about all that. The reason that we would like to have the land annexed, and the annexation does not include any of Country Club estates. There is zero in that. This is, you're shaking your head, that's true, it is zero. It is the land behind Country Club Estates, the 20-something acres that we purchased from Mr. Millaway, I believe it was 64, but all of this other land came in our family in 1946.
1981, we bought that land over there.
Yes, but 1946 is when all this other land came. But we bought that from Millaway then. But the reason we want to have this annexed, rather than us continue on this development as we were doing it, is because due to the urban development in the country now and in our county, it is not economically feasible for us to do it. We would like to, at our age, I'm 80 years old, I don't feel like I'm an old person, but I would like to be able to fix this so that my family would have it the way it should be, and my neighbors will have no problem with these other neighbors. So we don't want to do it now. We want to give it over to a builder, a local builder, not one from somewhere else that you won't know, not some kind of flaky something that happens. I've heard all sorts of things that's going to happen over there, which, like the government's going to put illegals over there in housing. That's not going to happen. We want to do this so that we know what's going to happen to it, and that you all will be having this for a person that is going to be a local person. You'll know what's going on. That's why we want to sell it. And I have someone said that I changed my mind about selling it to some of you neighbors. Well, I didn't really change my mind. I already had a contractor with a builder, a developer. And according to my attorney, you cannot back out on something and just turn around and say, well, I'll just sell it to you all over here. I can't do that. That's it. That's why I'm doing this. And it is our property, and I do want to have it for the best for the rest of my family. And, of course, for us. And for you all. It's not, I really don't see why people think it's going to hurt all of y'all. So that's it.
Could I ask a question?
No. Not unless you're addressed by board.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to know what the zoning was going to be.
Well, that's hadn't happened yet. Okay, Mr. One question I didn't have. One question, and we haven't voted on, we have called for a vote on R3. It's on table right now. If it doesn't go R3, do you want to be annexed?
Yes.
You still want to be annexed?
The person that wants to buy, yes.
Even if it doesn't go R3, if it goes...
It needs to be R3 because the day of R1 is passed.
Okay, my question is, if in your opinion, tonight, if it goes, if the board votes for R2A, do you want to be annexed?
I would prefer it to be R3.
But isn't that a fair question? Attorney Hill?
Yes, whatever the board's consideration is, everything's very close.
I mean, I know that's putting you on the spot.
Yeah.
But if the board votes for R2A, you will still want to be annexed. Okay. I was curious about that. Okay.
The group, I want to go home tonight sometime, so I don't want everybody to speak, but I'd like to relinquish my time if you can, among yourselves, give us two people to speak in the right place. I don't care who it is, just don't everybody volunteer, but give me a couple of people that's on the other side that wants to speak.
I'd like to speak, but I think Mr. Messick had already asked Mr. Lowe to speak.
Absolutely.
I'm just here to answer any questions. Any
You have
questions that
I
you
got
have.
some questions for you.
Well, let's finish with
Okay, yes.
Mark's people first. I thought I'm sorry, Jeff,
That's okay. I'm just here to answer questions. I really haven't.
I didn't mean to overlook you.
I've been overlooked my whole life. I'm overlooked.
You are overlooked.
I just want you to tell us, to explain to the board the difference between R2A and R3 and why it's so important that we zone in R3 and why R2A is not okay. I need you to tell us that.
In studying with my engineer, it looks as though, obviously for the price I'm paying for the land, it's not economically feasible to do it unless I get a certain number of lots. I've been speaking with my engineer, if it goes from R3 to R2A.
Come on up here.
I will say that he does have big problems.
Yes.
So,
In speaking with the engineer, he predicts that I will lose 20 to 25 lots, the difference between R2A and R3.
How many?
20 to 25. He can't give you an exact number till topos and engineering and things like that have been done. But I would like the board to know one thing. You know, I don't know how many people here owns the property. I own all or part, 50% of 4 properties out there. So anybody here that thinks I'm going to do something detrimental to the subdivision, if they think I'm going to lose them $1 by doing it, I'm going to cost myself $4. And I do think the board might be interested in knowing that. And I've heard, I like everybody, I've heard so many things, but I've just tried to keep my mouth shut. If the Board of Mayor and Aldermen think this is a good thing for the city of Manchester, I ask them to vote for it. If you don't, then don't.
You gonna build a slum? I've heard that.
Listen,
Little houses.
for the price of the real estate, and I'm sure Brian and each one of the department heads can explain to you, for the cost of pipe, culverts, you name it, you can't build a slum and spend the kind of money that we're looking to spend.
I'd like to add to what he just said.
okay, we're going to get two people that, Alderman Bellamy has chosen. Are you willing to pick out the two?
Yeah, I'll pick out the two, but
Driver,
I assume is
yes, you're,
Alderman
okay,
Messick.
that's one of your two, okay,
No.
thank you.
Alderman Messick, third first.
I'm going to speak. I don't have to speak that.
I hate to, I'm just trying, I'm tracking so that everybody, it will be fair and done.
Okay. My name is Tate Driver.
Could you come up to the
We're staying over here in the policeman. I feel my neighborhood now. It's unbelievable. I used to know everybody. Everybody spoke to each other. I helped everybody. There's so many people that are in this room right here tonight that I have helped. I've done everything in the world to make Country Club Estates one of the best subdivisions around. And I'm not going to do anything to hurt it. I can rest assured of that. And Jeff mentioned about the cost. The reason we can't do it with R1 or something like that is the cost of goods. Today, I purchased one pipe to go under a driveway, 24-inch pipe, is $735, bought 3 of them. And 2 years ago, it was at $400, okay? The pipe for the water lines was $3 2 years ago. It's now $6. There's no way one can do it in the urban area that you can come out with it at all. So that's why I would suggest it's the only way you can do it. Is to have a couple houses on each line or whatever you want to. But anyone have any questions for me, I'll give them a question. I've been living in country club states. I came here from Nashville when I was 13 years old. I'll give you the history myself so you'll know I'm not a bad person. I came here. I was president of Christ in 1959. I have a master's degree from Middle Tennessee State University. I taught school for 6 years, and now I work for a Reader's Digest.
We're focusing on why it should be something right now, the motion on the table, R3, and we're focusing on why it should be.
Well, I feel like, that somebody ought to know if you get a court, you don't know who you are. I mean, I don't know whether anybody got in touch with me.
Thank you. Unless they're recognized, can I ask you a question? I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem with that.
We're staying with the rules of order. Thank you, Mr. Driver. I appreciate that. Okay, you wanted to, any time, do you have a time limit on that?
I don't want to cut them off. The gentleman back there with the mask on tonight, yeah, he had his hand up, and there's some other lady.
Over here.
Careful,
careful.
Right, the shirt back there. Didn't you want to talk, didn't you want to speak a while ago? Yeah, the lady in the glasses and the striped shirt, right in front of the man with the green shirt.
That's you.
Your name and address?
My name is Jeremy Anderson. I live at 94 Cleo Street. The proposed property is my backyard. So, and first of all, I want to just thank you all for listening to us. And I want to thank Tim and Judy for building such a great neighborhood. It's obvious that this many people are passionate about our neighborhood because it is a great place to live, and we want it to stay that way. So, for those of us whose property adjoins this parcel, when we built our house, or when we bought a house in some cases, and we began to improve our real estate, we did so with the understanding that that property behind us would be roughly 22 lots at almost an acre a lot, similar to what we live in now, R1. And my understanding of zoning laws is that they're in place to protect people who improve property, the investment we put into property. It's to protect our investment so that we won't lose money ultimately, and that's what zoning is about. And what you're proposing is to put an R3 in the center of nothing but R1. Nothing that touches this property is anything other than R1, including city property that's there now, according to your master plan for low-density residential houses. So what you're proposing to do is spot zoning. And we have no problem with any kind of development back there at all, as long as it's according to the plan we were sold on when we invested to improve our real estate. This is our forever home, and y'all can say what you want about 70 houses, whether they're small or whether they're not, it doesn't fit with the current infrastructure. And so you can say that it'll cost you $4, but it's costing us in our property values, if there are 70 homes located behind us versus the 22 that were proposed initially. So what you're about to vote on is the definition of spot zoning. And you can say what you want to, but it's to protect the property values of the people who have already invested in real estate around it. And you may think, as a city organization, that you're not necessarily beholden to us as much, because we're county residents, I understand that. But almost everybody who lives in that neighborhood pays city taxes in one form or the other, including owning real estate in Manchester, working in Manchester, kids go to Manchester schools in a lot of cases. So we're asking you to do what's right for Manchester, but also for us that already live there, and not just for people who have a developmental interest in the whole thing. So that's all I have to say. I appreciate your time, I really do. And I do appreciate your time.
You hadn't had your mask on, I'd have known who you was.
I did, I personally did.
Could I kind of pause here?
You can do whatever you want, Mayor. You're in charge.
Zoning. And thank you, Dr. Anderson.
Sure.
I have asked Attorney Ewell to, because this is the crux of rezoning this. Is it spot zoning? Not, I bought this house and we're gonna have this house. It is. Is it spot zoning? And I've asked Attorney Ewell to weigh in and give his opinion, unbiased, I can tell you, you know Attorney Ewell, and he is our city attorney. It is his unbiased and opinion, so Attorney Ewell.
I do not think it's spot zoning. Spot zoning is the process of singling out a small parcel of land for a use classification totally different from that of surrounding area for the benefit of an owner of such property and to the detriment of other owners, and is such an antithesis of plan zoning. This particular property is not a small parcel. It's 22.15 acres. In fact, it's larger than the Creekwood subdivision behind it. So not only is it not a small parcel, it is larger than the other city property that's owned behind it, which is 21.7 acres. The St. John property in the vicinity, which is owned R4, is 23.4 acres. The Park property up the road is 8.5. Northridge, which is further out, is 45 acres. It's zoned R2. So not only is this not a small parcel of land, it's larger than the R1 that joins it. So it's not illegal spot zoning. Thankfully for me, instead of for me having to go out on a limb, the Supreme Court of Tennessee addressed a very similar question in a case called Fallin versus Knox County Board of Commissioners in 1983, and it talked about rezoning very similar to this. In that case, they wanted to rezone some property to allow apartment houses next to some residential, and it says, and as I read, it talks about using a classification totally different, and I'm going to read the passage because it's not very long. It says, the new zoning of the Joyner property for the apartments would not represent a change in the kind of use permitted. It would still be used for residential dwelling, but the intensity of such use would be greatly increased, 27 units per acre instead of 2.5 to 3 that were permitted under the old zoning. The property being rezoned is not a single city lot, as in a case versus Grant McCullough, but is a 10.6 acre tract surrounded by land which for the most part is zoned for agricultural and residential use, similar to this. There is in the immediate area of the property being rezoned 2 commercial zones, which out on the highway would be correct, and some zoning which permits multiple dwellings. There's evidence that a need exists in the particular area here involved for additional apartments. So with that case law out there, I think it does not constitute illegal spot zoning. That's my opinion. I can provide the citation to anybody wants.
Okay. You have one more person?
Two more people.
Maybe it's over.
I have a petition, I don't know if you all want to see it, but it's signatures of people who've signed that they would love to keep this in Form 1. If you all want to look at it, if you care to see it.
Well, I've seen one, I don't know if it's the same one or not.
Okay.
You just,
I'll wait there, my name is Connie Hill, and I live on 198 Mill Street. Of course, this is kind of going over some of the things that Jeremy has already said, but the property in question is a county R1. The original plat shows about 20 houses, as Jeremy said. The thing is, there's one party asking to be zoned an R3 when there's hundreds of people asking to please keep it an R1. This, like Jeremy said, it should be a low density instead of a high density. Our neighbors have worked very hard to keep our neighborhood the way it is. And I think it's extremely one-sided to rule to one party when it's just one party. And there's so many hundreds of more that we need to look at. Also, at our meeting last time, there was a question about if the fire department could.
Planning services, the fire department, they serve that area.
I just feel like, and the people who are here, I think, also feel the same way. This is a negative impact on our neighborhood. And also, I would like for you all to think about if you're going to benefit in any way zoning this in R3, that you would consider refrain from voting. And I would also like to say, don't treat us as...
We will do that. It's for our advantage.
Don't just treat us as urban development, because we are humans. And don't look at us as just lines on a map, because that's not what we are. And I hope that you will prayerfully consider keeping this an R1. Thank you.
Any more discussion from the board? Any more discussion?
I'd like to say one more thing. There's very few people out there that can start out in a $500,000 house. You see those two guys standing over there that they put their life on the line every day for the citizens of Manchester? I don't know what they make. They can't buy a $500,000 house. There's nothing wrong with having it. But we're talking about building 75, 80 houses that someone can start out in. Someone can start a family. Is it too much to ask that the people that just got it hardly as far along in life as you guys are? Is it too much to ask that they have a place to start out, to raise family?
That's what St. John's doing at the...
I'm not talking.
Excuse me, you haven't been ready.
And I'm just saying.
Sorry. Go ahead.
That's why there's two sides to every story, okay? There's two sides to everything. And I understand your side. I do. I understand. But there's other people out there that are looking for a house today. And they can afford a $150,000, $170,000, $200,000 house. They can't afford that $1 million house. Those houses that they're going to build, if we zone it R3, will have no effect, I say, no effect on you guys. It won't affect your property values, not one of them. You'll still have the same size house. You'll still have the same size lot. There's no connection between the properties. There's no roads, there's no extra traffic for you guys. I guess you guys know where I'm coming down on it. I'm going to be for those guys every time.
Any more comments from the board? Any more comments from the board?
Oh, it's good. I'm just playing out another. So I brought up the property on the right when you go in Country Club. We zoned R3 or 4, I can't remember. Did 4. I did that because of proximity to Highway 41, and any property in the urban growth boundary that borders of road of that kind, I'll always vote for R4. And but I just can't imagine in what part of the future that any of that other property around there is going to be requesting annexation to come to the city as anything different than it is. Matter of fact, I don't think any of us can be requesting for annexation, existing properties, I'm saying. So I don't think it's spot zoning, but it is really just, it doesn't fit, you know, to me it doesn't fit. So, but like I said, I brought forward that motion for the R4 out by the highway, and I'll do that from now on. Anywhere in Manchester, pretty much, I'm going to go for R4 inside our current city limits. But this one just seems not right. I don't know if it's right. It's all right. That's a considered opinion, not a fact.
Any more comment from the board? Okay. Right now, we are calling vote as whether we want that to be R3.
Alderman Patton?
No.
Alderman Bellamy?
No.
Vice Mayor Messing? Alderman Nichols?
No.
Alderman Elam?
Okay, and I have, this is nothing personal. I have abstained from the planning commission because I didn't know if my husband was going to be part of the development. This is a parcel of land that I trust that is not spot zoning. This is a parcel of land that we have, if you bought into this neighborhood and you had a commitment that was part of the subdivision from the landowners, but this is, the landowner is asking that go R3, and I say yes on our R3.
Next thing, I don't have any more than pretty makes the next one.
Okay, right now, we're looking for a public works assistant and a job description. We're working on that job description. Probably, and it will be a low level, it's not civil engineer.
It would be a civil engineer tech. Each alderman has that in their packet in front of them. The very last sheet, 3 sheets. It is the description of that position that impacts development. And that was approved by Director Gannon. The salary level was starting at, it's 6 minimum. And that was from average across the board of abilities that we asked for. And the requirements, they have those requirements, but that is the minimum.
The motion on at least the salary, what we think would be $60,000. And George has not, his assistant, he has not hired his assistant. So we have a motion on that.
We need a motion on both.
Okay.
Because this is the new job description.
Okay.
So I'll do that.
You're making the motion to approve the job description. Okay. Do I have a second? It is moved and seconded. The motion is as presented for the job description. Do I have any discussion on it? Call roll, please.
Alderman French. Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols. Alderman Ely. Was that approving the minimum?
The job description.
Just the job description.
That's how you make a motion. The minimum.
Yes.
So I make a motion on the other part now.
Okay.
The minimum, $60,000. Second.
Any discussion?
Alderman French. Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols. Alderman Ely.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
On this job description,
It needs to go, the job description says not exempt, which was brought to my attention. Most assistant positions are exempt. They're salary employees.
I'll make a motion, so the changes.
Yes, I will make sure, I'll do the study with MLS, make sure that it does require the exemption, but all of our systems are exempt.
Any comment on the exempt part? Call roll, please.
Alderman French. Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols. Alderman Ely.
Okay, next is the fire inspector position. We met today with a contract, that we could contract that out. Haven't gotten any prices back. We're looking for that position as far as, but right now what we have is we have Chief George and Emmett Wright are filling in the gap of the fire inspector until we make a decision. We don't have you got those, he hasn't sent those prices back, how much if we contract it out?
I checked my email before I came in here and I don't have anything.
So just letting you guys know that that we're using Emmett and George as the fire inspectors at this time. Whether we contract it out or hire someone, that's where we are right now. That we were hoping we would have some prices. So there's pros and cons of contracting it out. I mean, if you build a relationship, I'm just really happy that we have the inspectors that step in. So
when we had that discussion, I mean, when we had that discussion, is there on a contractual level, if we do that, if we go that route, is there an opportunity for like Monterey, when we have to bring in inspectors, elevate that contract for that particular versus going through the fire inspector's office at the state?
Well, when I talked to Gary Carlos, and since we didn't have it, they said that they would only charge $5,000, but he is assuming that we're still under contract with Monterey right now. Are we still under contract? He kept saying, we're under contract. I was asking him about something, he said, we're still under contract, we got Monterey. So,
it was for a specific duration. I'm not sure since Monterey got moved if it encompasses the next round of Monterey. I think it did actually. I think it did get. I think it was September back through June on the last time. So, but the way the contract's written, if they don't do anything, we don't have to pay them. So right now they're obligated to do it if we ask them, but we could tell them we don't want to do it. We want to take another route. But I think they are obligated. I think it did go past the June normal Monterey. That was my recollection.
I'm just asking, when we had that conversation, for that to be brought up, if it's an option for us, say we hire XYZ firm, if they come in and supply some more folks for that week, if that's an option, and if it's even financially feasible to do versus the fire inspector's office. If it's cheaper than the fire inspector's office, obviously do that.
The guy who we interviewed today really wanted to do that. So, I don't know how feasible, and I don't have anything to gauge it on. I guess we'd have to do a special call if with these prices. How would we handle that? If we wanted to?
It would depend on how much they are, how much the total amount of the contract is. If these go on a per inspection basis, it may be something within your authority to approve. If it's going to be more than that, more than 35,000, then we would have to, if we anticipate it to be more than 35, we have to do a resolution. If we're contracted with the firm to do it like for a year or whatever, but if it's ad hoc or, if somehow it doesn't obligate us to more than 35,000, then it's within the committee and it's under, we'll break it 10 for the 25 to the committee, or 35 to 10. Below 10, you can handle it. If it's on a month-to-month basis, it may be such that you could approve it.
Well, I don't, but I think that we kind of are assuming that we will use Chief and Emmett at least through February and middle of March. So we'll have time. We can bring back up the next board meeting. Okay. Also, for the mayor appointment to Solid Waste Planning Board, since George was on it before and he has agreed to do it again, I had, and Alderman Nichols, with twisting of his arm, said he would take it, but George is still said he would take it, and I think I did you a favor because I was twisting your arm to take it. So George is the one that's agreed to take it, and so there's no vote on that. Just a
mayoral appointment for the board.
All right, with that, do we have any comments from the board? Brian?
I'd say, not that a lot of people left, but those zoning issues, I understand, they're difficult. I voted the way I did because I've consistently voted that way. There was a vote, Oliver Lake was a very similar situation. There was a vote in my own neighborhood where literally every one of my neighbors came and told me not to vote on it, except one. They're hard. I hate it, but I also factor in the intent of the development, and I think the intent of the development is good, and that's why I voted for it. And I voted that way consistently throughout, so it still is hard. You got people on both sides of it that I care a lot about, but it is what it is.
Thank you.
Yes, but it didn't make anybody mad.
I'm waiting on compromise to make everybody mad, but it didn't get that far.
Thank you. Mark? Bill?
I like to say you got to a very good meeting, so you did a really great job. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I would like to just thank everybody, and I certainly didn't make any friends tonight, I'm sure, but I voted in my conscience. It had nothing to do with me personally, nothing whatsoever. I had nothing personal, and I voted for what I thought was right. And I thank you guys for coming, and do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Everybody stand up.